Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to House of Footy. It's your boy Ray, and alongside me are Gio
Yo, yo, yo.
and Mac.
Good evening.
The World Cup has lived up to its expectations. I think we can all agree. But now we are back to the preview for the upcoming action in the EPL for match week 17. Um, Before we get into it, don't forget to follow us on our social medias, both on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle is at @house_of_footy. Also, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to us. We are now on both Spotify and YouTube, and so you can find us on both platforms there. Lastly, feel free to get in touch with us via email as well. We love hearing from you guys, and we want you guys getting involved. Our email is houseoffooty@hotmail.com. But yeah, guys, the EPL is back, and we gotta go straight to the preview of the first place team in the Premier League, Arsenal. Arsenal will be facing West Ham on Boxing Day, and that is going to be, I think, a nice little start back to the Premier League. So, Mac, give us some of your thoughts for this upcoming game.
I think it'll be a very interesting game because Arsenal generally wants to try to play a free-flowing, attacking brand of football, whereas West Ham want to play the complete opposite. They're very structured. They want to be able to, when they do keep the ball, want to bring it out wide, dump balls into the box, and try to create off that level of chaos. Arsenal and both West Ham actually are bringing players back from the World Cup that didn't actually last too long throughout the tournament. The only long-standing player, I think, from both teams is Saliba, who played in one match as a substitute, right? So there are two teams that had decent rest, even though the World Cup was still ongoing. I think the big miss, I guess we may talk about, is Gabriel Jesus missing for Arsenal, who's out reported for, I think, a couple of months now. I think it was the initial surgery was 6 weeks at that point, so it's already been, I think, half that time period. So it's still a couple of weeks, but I guess this is really the time for Eddie Nketiah to earn that number 14 shirt. I hate myself just saying it. Sorry, but it is his opportunity to be able to do so. So he generally thrives more so in counter-attacking football, less so in how Arsenal have been successful thus far this year. So it'll be interesting to see how productive he is. I have watched a couple of the games that they had against like Juve and stuff like that in the kind of the practice tournaments, and he's looked decent. And has so Fabio Vieira, but it'll be interesting to see in this first matchup if they can get right back to how they're playing prior to the World Cup. So hopefully they do so.
Yeah, I think Nketiah did score. I'm just looking here. Arsenal did face Lyon, AC Milan, and Juventus in sort of that gap between the World Cup and the return of the Premier League. The last game the last game in the EPL was, I believe, a 2-0 win against Wolves. So that was, I think, pretty routine. On the flip side, though, West Ham, their fixtures in the break, playing against Cambridge United, Udinese, and Fulham. And their last fixture was, I think, a 2-0 loss against Leicester. Just wanted to get Gio's thoughts about what's come. What do you predict will happen in this game?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, West Ham hasn't had a great start to the season. Everybody's almost sort of disappointed on where they're at right now, including the players, of course, with a lot of new signings. Hopefully, again, not a lot of players from that side were able to make World Cup squads. So kind of in hindsight might work out to their benefit. Players are able to train together, talk tactics, talk strategy. So that's always a good thing. But on the other side, where Arsenal, it's likely that Ramsdale will get a start. But him not having played for so long in a game situation, can you expect some rust? Hopefully not. But again, I wouldn't be shocked if he were to make an error here and there, whether it's clearing the ball or just like simple decision making. Sometimes you just have to get it back into it. And again, like Max said, Gab Jesus out. So we're really gonna have to see who's gonna step up in that goal scoring position and really, really take the lead there. Xhaka is probably. I can't see him getting a start immediately. I think they'll work him in slowly, just so to make sure they have enough rest. Again, I think they'll look at this game as West Ham will try to come out a little stronger, just because again they are the fresher squad of the two. But if Arsenal can come in and just not so hold on, but play a game, control the tempo. If they're able to control the tempo, um, once their players that have been to the World Cup do get on and come on, I think they'll have a great game eventually. But again, I think I'll start off a little slower, but I think they will control most of the game.
Yeah, controlling most of the game is a theme that Arsenal have found themselves in this season. Just looked up the stats for Arsenal versus Juventus. Arsenal had 75% possession, but they still lost 2-0. And so they will, I think, again, continue that trend, continue to control most of the game. But up front is, like Mac mentioned, some of where they may struggle in the short term with that injury. So, I guess on that note, let's discuss. Obviously, we've heard about Mudryk being rumored to Arsenal ever since I think middle of the first half of the season, where he was playing in the Champions League for Shakhtar. Mac, I guess give us some of your thoughts on that, if you can.
Mudryk is an interesting player. He's generally played as a wide forward, an attacking front three, applying a lot of pressure. The interesting part is, for me, his play style is very eerily similar to Martinelli, because he's very comfortable on the ball, wanting to be able to drive at people. Does look for his own goal, but at the same time can be a creative force. So very much, for me, he overlaps in a similar type of play, but can play across a front three, similar a la Martinelli, because if Martinelli lined up as a striker, I could see that being a natural fit potentially as well. So that type of player profile coming in is something that Arsenal, especially with the absence thus far this year for Emile Smith-Rowe, who's still yet to play a game, even though he is back, is a player that they do need a little bit more depth. That's the thing that we've been talking about. Maybe not for this year if health permits, but more so if their intention is if they end up finishing in the top four, getting into Champions League, that's another piece of the puzzle that they do need just for squad rotation. So having a player like him come in, if that were to be the case, does seem a natural fit. I think I don't know if you guys share the same skepticism as terms of his transition over to the Premier League, because that can be a rough change.
I absolutely do.
But he does have experience in the Champions League, so if it's more so looking that forward thinking, you're able to give him the time to kind of settle in, not really have to start him right away. That could be an easier fit, kind of a la what Pep and Klopp do with a lot of their major signings, is that you're not a shoe-in for a spot right away. We're going to work you in. You have to get used to the league, and then by the second year is really where we see more of the improvement. So if he comes in this summer, I don't think we see the best of him until beginning this time next year in all likelihood, right? Given how difficult transition it can be. I think more so the one that they do need, and Gio kind of talked about, is that central midfield player. This is something that we've talked about for, is it 2 transfer windows now, potentially?
Yeah.
Tielemans coming on potentially to kind of give more assurance to that Xhaka position or Partey position, because that's probably where they're the most thinnest, right? I think that for me more so is more of a desperate need versus something. Mudryk is more something you want to have for next year, if you see what I mean.
Okay. It sounds like the players that you mentioned, they're not just signings to immediately improve and keep that title charge for Arsenal. Those are obviously long term. But I guess same question for you, Gio. Are there any other types of players that you think Arsenal should be on the lookout for if they are looking to target that sort of title charge? The likes of Joao Felix and Ferran Torres have been linked. Not sure how much of that has been really proved to be concrete, but what are your thoughts on those players and Mudryk as well?
I don't think they should really panic. I think one area is, again, the midfield. I think that has always been the worry, if there is a worry. But again, they shouldn't panic too much about Gab being out. I think they have the capability, they have the skill set where you don't have to necessarily rely on Nketiah. Nketiah can almost, play like a poacher type striker. You have so much skill from out wide. that if you get enough guys into the box, your chances will come. So I don't think they should panic buy a backup striker in any sense, because in the January market things are inflated. Players are inflated because teams just know how desperate other teams can get, especially teams that are fighting the Champions League, fighting Europa League. You're gonna have to overpay, and I don't think Arsenal should, and I don't think they will. They've been very smart with the transfers. So unless it's the right price, especially with Tielemans, that could be a right price, because I think that is an expired contract. So for Leicester to get something out of it, now's the best time. They should have done it in the summer, but they didn't end up doing it. Now would be the perfect time for them to strengthen that midfield, year Tielemans. So yeah, no, I don't think you should panic. Get a good price. If you don't get the good price, just wait till summer.
Okay. Okay, let's quickly move on to West Ham before we move on to the next game. They have been linked, just looking here through online, they've been linked with Moises Caicedo, a player that Mac really thought would have a great tournament in the World Cup, and which I think he did, and he was a standout player. But also, current Man U player Aaron Wan-Bissaka has been linked as well with West Ham. So I guess quickly your thoughts on those links, Gio.
Look, I think Moises Caicedo, obviously, who wouldn't want to have him on the squad, especially if you can bring someone like him in, if the fact that Declan Rice has always been halfway out the door.
Right.
That's a great piece to bring in. And with the money that you'll make from Declan Rice, paying for Moises Caicedo would not be an issue. Again, Moises Caicedo has the upside of, garnering that attention again and to be resold again at a higher value. So you got to look at it in the long run. That would be a great buy for them. Now, when it comes to Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I don't think that would be a great buy at all. Defensively, they are struggling a little more. Yes, he is defensive, but I don't think he's more stay-at-home. Like, he's just not useful enough for them. Again, if he were to go back to Crystal Palace, I think he'll be a better use there. But not West Ham. I don't think West Ham should really go out there and spend money on Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
Okay, so I guess same question to you, Mac, before we wrap up this game.
Oh, I think Gio's spot on. The Caicedo piece, I think, would be very, very interesting. And even though West Ham are not in a better shape right now than Brighton, really, he could look at the club as a step up, given their history, and going into next year could potentially be one of the players that could lead them in a charge to kind of get back to where they were, and that allows them to kind of finally offload Declan Rice, which, as Gio said, he made a couple of statements even at the World Cup talking about he wants to be playing Champions League football like the rest of his English teammates. So I would be surprised if that's not I would be surprised if Declan Rice does not move, and therefore the Caicedo piece, I think, could be huge.
Okay, interesting. West Ham are going into this game as 16th place in the Premier League, so they're obviously looking to get some more points there. So good game to watch. We'll definitely keep an eye out on that. So let's move on to the next game, Leicester versus Newcastle. Gio, Leicester finished off in 13th place before the World Cup, sort of going on a better run to end that first half of the season before, obviously, the way they started was not the greatest. Newcastle, though, have been flying, third in the EPL, and really looking, I think, like a team that will for sure battle out for top four. So how do you see this game going?
In this game in particular, I do see, obviously we've seen Leicester sort of jump up and down in terms of their form leading into the World Cup. I just see Newcastle being fresher. I think they're going to be the hungrier side, not so much, one team won't be as fresh as the other. I just think Newcastle just have that hunger in them, just knowing how well they have been doing. They're going to go out there and get it, and they want to stay in the top four, and that would be one of their biggest accomplishments this season. And yeah, I think it's not more so who's the fresh team, like I said. It's going to be the more hungry team, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if Almagad can keep up his form. That's the big question. Obviously not playing games for that stretch of time. It will take some time for him to get back in the rhythm. That type of physicality, it just doesn't come back on overnight. So we'll see how he does and how he takes advantage of just both teams not really playing too many games. So yeah, I think Newcastle will edge this one quite comfortably, even.
Okay, Mac, on that Newcastle point, Enzo Fernandez and Soyan Amrabat, from what I'm seeing, are the two players that have been heavily linked with Newcastle so far. And so that really leads to that center midfield position next to likely Bruno Guimaraes being the spot that they're looking to strengthen. What are your thoughts about that? Does that make sense?
I completely agree. I think that's something that I talked about is that piece beside Guimaraes is something that they want to be able to improve on because they've been doing one of the Longstaff brothers or a Joe Linting, which they have done very well thus far for Newcastle this year. But in terms of class and kind of reaching that next level, that's something that they would want to more so focus and improve on. So coming off a World Cup, this team Newcastle. I very much like compare it to when you're playing FIFA, your career mode, and you have the financial takeover ability, and you just suddenly you're now able to buy whoever you want, and Newcastle's able to do that. So they will have, in a lot of ways, could be in a position where they're considering where they are on the table to kind of pick who they want to be able to bring in. They have a good project, they have a great manager that people believe in, a good atmosphere around them right now, and a shitload of cash. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's an area of the pitch that they target. And players like that could be a really, really good fit. I think going into the tournament, Fernandez was there. I saw a report that they were Julian Alvarez and Fernandez were valued at a combined 30 million last year summer, because they both played on the same team. But now, of course, they're going to be much more expensive than that. So I would not be surprised if he does make a move, and if he comes to Premier League, which would be fantastic. This is one of the better fit teams for him.
Yeah, definitely. He's been linked with as well. We'll talk on it later. A couple of other Premier League teams as well, and so that really goes to show, like the way we always have a big performer in the World Cup. That could be definitely one of the players that makes a move. On the Leicester side, though, from what I saw, Soyuncu has been linked to Atletico Madrid. Tillemans is on an expiring contract, and James Maddison, again, rumors there that he may leave or start looking to leave. So, Gio, how do you think the rest of the season will play out for Leicester if they don't improve and strengthen that team?
Look, I don't think it's a team that is looking to improve. I think they're looking to improve more so in the summer. I think the best thing for them is to make their profit while they still can. I think that's very important. And if teams are desperate and willing to pay for players, let them play for players. Make the move earlier. Rip the bandage off right now. And then you decide. You kind of let Brendan Rodgers kind of run the show for the rest of the season. If you do decide to go another direction, let him go in the summer, and give the new coach, the new manager, the time, a fresh window for him to decide who he wants to bring in, what works with what he has left on the squad, and go from there. I don't see them as buyers. If they can fire sell. I think that's the best thing for them at this moment.
Okay. That makes sense. It doesn't look like, at least from what I've seen, Leicester have been linked heavily with any incoming players. And even though they are on an uptick in form, if they still continue to lose players, I don't think that'll be beneficial. So yeah, definitely keeping staying in the Premier League and achieving as high a position as possible is, I think, their main goal. And we'll just have to wait out and see how the rest of the season goes for them. Again, we'll be watching this game to give you guys the review in our next podcast, so we'll always come back to that. On that note, we're going to take a quick break here, guys, and then we'll be back previewing some more Premier League games coming up, so stay with us. Welcome back to House of Footy, guys. We're going to continue our preview for match day 17 of the Premier League. And the next game we're going to discuss is Aston Villa versus Liverpool. And now, Mac, before I throw it to you, Aston Villa versus Liverpool has a spot in my heart. That 7-2 game where Liverpool got undressed and destroyed, still in my memory. So, as a Liverpool fan, this game will be something that I'm very much watching and hoping that Liverpool get a win. But I don't know, man. Aston Villa with Emery is, I think, a different beast, and with him given time to mold that team into what he wants them to be, will be an interesting matchup. So, I guess for you, Mac, what do you see happening in this game, Aston Villa Liverpool?
So I don't know if I really want to go too deep into this right now, but I don't see how Liverpool don't absolutely shellac them, given a couple of factors. If Martinez is coming back and playing in net, how is he not aggressively hungover with the amount of alcohol he probably has in his body, where he can catch any type of ball? And then if not, you're facing a backup keeper Aston Villa. If you get a shot on net, let's be real here. All respect to Robin Olsen. I've seen him play before, but probably going to be rough days. I'll be honest with you. So as well as Liverpool probably are a team where are happy about the World Cup break. A lot of players didn't have as many players going to play in the World Cup with heavy minutes. I think them along with Arsenal. I know Ray, you and I were very excited about this. So they're of the quote unquote big six teams played the fewest amount of minutes in the World Cup. So they should be fairly rested, coming with a squad that no players really, from my recollection, went very deep. So they should be coming back in a manner where, I understand the first half of the season didn't go the greatest for them, but they're in a position now where they can have that reset, and hopefully could come out with a strong start against a team with some players that did go to the World Cup, did play heavy minutes, and did get pretty far. So something that they might be able to take advantage of, for sure.
Okay, definitely. I just want to mention Liverpool are now currently 6th in the Premier League, and Aston Villa are 12th in the Premier League ahead of this game. But like Mac just mentioned, Emi Martinez likely is going to be a big miss for Aston Villa this week. But also, he's been linked, from what I saw at the very least, Gio, to a move to Bayern Munich. What are your thoughts to that, Gio?
A little bold, I think. Obviously, Bayern is desperate for a keeper. I mean, of starting caliber. Still have Champions League to play. Still fighting for the Bundesliga. Actually, that league has been a whirlwind this season, so we love to see it. Gives the other teams a chance. But yeah, no, I don't think they should spend on Emmy. I think they'll ask the world for Emmy again. These January transfer windows don't benefit teams that are desperate to buy. Again, if Manuel Neuer is out for the year, which likely is the time frame for an ACL injury, what do I don't think Emmy's going to be comfortable being a backup, knowing that he's the main guy at Villa, and he gets those starting minutes, and he constantly gets those starting minutes, and the way he's comfortable in the league, the way he's able to voice himself in a way, do his little shimmies, do his little shit talk, get into players' heads, which he's done a great job of doing in the Premier League. I think he's very happy where he is, and I think a switch to Bayern just wouldn't be, favorable in his sense. This puts a new sense of pressure on him. Having to live up to Manuel Neuer standards. That's a whole different ballgame, and I don't think that would be a great move for him, especially with the new manager coming in who obviously sees will rely on him heavily. I think he kind of wants that leadership role even at Villa now.
Okay, Mac, some reports saying Coutinho maybe looking to leave and go back to Brazil. Do you see this as a potential move? Does it fit sort of what has been happening at Aston Villa? And do you like that for Aston Villa? What do you think?
I think the natural fit for Coutinho was more so because of Gerrard potentially playing in a 4-2-3-1, a system that Coutinho is very, very comfortable in. If we're going to be moving away with that, and that seems to be what Aston Villa has been doing in the recent games, I think that change is something that would benefit him and them, where he maybe can go back to some place that he's a little bit more comfortable in, be in a position where he can kind of play how he does want to play, because this Aston Villa team, even though they haven't performed to their utmost thus far this year, does have a lot of talent. So he's not a kind of a shoe-in starting 11 player where they're in a position where they have to build around him given his ability, right? No, they do have other players that they can work around and want to be able to try to kind of showcase. So I think that moving away from Coutinho seems like a natural fit, and could take them be in a position where, unfortunately, they did spend a little bit of money on him, not an obscene amount of money, but could be in a position where, if given the wage, maybe recuperate some of that. and go back out in the transfer market for maybe focus on another area of need.
Okay, I do agree. As a former Liverpool player, I do want to see him playing well, but given the fact that it's been difficult for him being in and out of the team, Aston Villa not performing the greatest recently, it just makes sense if he does leave in the near future. On the Liverpool side, though, I've been trying to look, and trust me, I've been trying to look for different transfer news, but all I've come up with is Enzo Fernandez, which makes sense in that midfield. So, Gio, what do you think about that potential transfer?
Obviously, as a Man U fan, I would love to see it happen because then they would have less money to spend on Jude. A strategy, you got to think about it. So I'd love to happen. But honestly, for them, like for where Liverpool is sitting, and again, I always factor in the sort of time it takes for you to adjust into the Premier League. He's not going to make that big of a difference for them at this time, and to spend upwards of probably 40 to 50 million probably is what they're probably going to ask for. I don't think teams should fight. Unless you're a team like Arsenal who want to secure first place and that's the only reason to spend. That's the only reason I can see Liverpool spending, but they're not technically in the race right now. They're obviously fighting to get into the top four and stay in the top four. But I just don't think Enzo Fernandez is the one. Well, you can look. I mean, like the better option to me would be to look within the Prem to find Prem experience or players that have played in the Prem and expiring contracts. Those are always the best to buy right now, just because you don't have to commit long term. I don't think Enzo should be a January signing for Liverpool.
Okay, and same question to you, Mac. Are you on board with Gio? It sounds like Gio doesn't like the big January transfer moves. More so, just keep it the same and see where you can sort of improve at a budget for a team. What do you think, Mac?
I think Fernandez. This might be. It all depends how many P's, how much money, how much Skrilla Liverpool have in the bank. Because if they can afford him and Jude, I'm 100% on board for them being 2/3 of a midfield three. I could see that as a natural fit where you can have Jude go crazy and you have Fernandez kind of holding in that Fabinho spot potentially. That could work well if you're kind of mapping out in your head and how well he's performed for Argentina. And still as of right now, it seems like the transfers around him are not where it's an obscene amount of money for him, right? So I would be very interested to see him potentially being in a position to make a transition to a club like this. He may have to start, unfortunately, given kind of where Liverpool are right now in regards to health situations in terms of the midfield being really old. But it's something that could work well for him, is a desperate need for Liverpool, and the real target is not available for them really as of right now. So it does check all the boxes, but as Gio highlighted, and I think is coming down to if you ask any Liverpool fan, if this brings the percentage or odds down of you bringing in Jude by any percent, would you take this? No, they wouldn't. They would want to focus on that first, and then worry about we can find another Fernandez. We can get another one of those guys. But you don't want to put the big boy at risk.
Completely agree. The big boy is destined to come back and potentially coming back to not just Liverpool, potentially coming back to Chelsea, which is taking on Bournemouth this weekend. Chelsea finishing in 8th before the World Cup break, and Bournemouth finishing 16th. Gio, how do you see this game going for Chelsea versus Bournemouth?
If any team needs a win, I would argue it would be 1 Chelsea and 2 Man U, who really need to start off the second half of the season very strong. Look, obviously we've seen it. Their players have been in great form, and again, we can argue that they weren't in great form at the World Cup either. And then coming back into it into the swing of things, are they going to be completely, you'd probably bet against them being completely 100% ready to go. That's going to be very important for them to start off strong. You're Chelsea, you're playing Bournemouth. It's a good team for you to really try to squeeze out a win here. They're very capable. But again, how ready to go are the guys? And is that midfield? I know Conor Gallagher didn't play a single minute at the World Cup, so we'll see how eager he is to get back onto the pitch and to really try to make a difference. But yeah, Chelsea really need this win, and I hope like players like Kai and Mason Mount understand that this can turn your second half of the season to a very bad start and almost a downward spiral if you don't win this game and fans start start talking and then you go to the transfer window, then teams knowing you have to buy are going to upcharge you, and to make a difference to try to stay in the top four, you definitely have to buy. And Chelsea's going to be one of those teams that are going to be big spenders at the window, to try to make a difference, whether it be at the striker position or in the midfield role where they need a spark. Obviously not having Conte for so long, they need something to make a difference there.
Yeah, no, for sure, and yeah, Gio's putting in the putting pressure on Chelsea right away, and I think that we can all agree the pressure is already there for them. The way sort of they finished off the last game before the break, I think they lost to Newcastle. Yeah, they lost 1-0 to Newcastle. Very, very far, I think, at this point from the top. Well, challenging for the title and even from the top four position. So they will be definitely looking to get a head start. Not just because, like Gio said, they're looking to finish in the top four, but if they do lose or don't get a positive result here, more pressure is going to be mounted on who they bring in, and the likes of Declan Rice, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Dusan Vlahovic, Mac, have been linked to Chelsea. What are your thoughts on these players, and is there a realistic one that they're looking for in these three?
It's tough because for Chelsea, they have a lot of quality players, but I don't see them naturally fitting well. So it's hard to know who's the natural placement to be able to bring in to be successful. Because let's say if you're bringing in a Declan Rice, does that take away from the Kovacic, the Contes, potentially them getting minutes, or are you having a full reset of your midfield? How well does a Rice, Mount, Havertz midfield three play? Is Havertz still playing as a part of an attacking front and being a striker? What do you do with the Aubameyang? There's so many more questions Chelsea have to answer. I think if you were in terms of the names that you would listed or what in the transfer rumors, I think Rice is probably the easiest fit because he's younger. He can be perceived as a foundational piece where this is a player we're going to be able to build with for the next 5-6 years. We want to be able to build around him, and he could fit well with some of our other players that are currently there. I think that's probably the easiest way to be able to go. If I'm them, I'm not looking into bringing in a flashy striker again for how many years in a row for Chelsea that it hasn't worked out. Let's figure out kind of the midfield, because you do need to be able to bring in legs there. And last transfer window, they've already brought in Fofana, who's injured, Koulibaly, who has been hit and miss on his day. So they've already had a reset there. So I could see more so focusing on the midfield here and kind of building from there. And then if they can figure that out, then having that striker as the final piece where maybe they can be a successful team without one, and that's more additive versus trying to figure out who could be that savior. I think that makes more sense.
Okay, I guess I have to bring it to Gio. Same question to you, and obviously, if you can provide an answer to that, Cristiano Ronaldo potentially joining Chelsea.
Obviously, I know the owner would be pretty fond of that, but obviously he has people around him that are probably arguing counterintuitively to that, which makes sense. The way Chelsea play, I don't think Ronaldo is going to benefit from that, nor are they going to benefit from that. They just don't have the players to create the chances for Ronaldo at the stage of his career where he is. He's more of that poacher type striker. Obviously, you'll get some, sensational goals here and there, which he's obviously very capable of skill-wise. But to do at a consistent basis, that's a different story now. Again, when you're talking about transfers, obviously Declan Rice is the sure option. But if we're talking Moises Caicedo to West Ham, why not Moises Caicedo to Chelsea? I think he could equally. He obviously won't provide as much as Declan Rice, but the amount you can pay for him right now, I think Brighton are more willing to part ways with him as opposed to West Ham. Oh no, as opposed to West Ham parting ways with Declan Rice. I think West Ham's going to do everything to try to convince him to stay, but again, I don't think he will stay. So, yeah, if you're looking for a short-term fix that's has very high upside, why not Moises Caicedo to Chelsea? If they're looking to ship Conte out, or if Barca is interested in Conte, is what I'm hearing. That's always a possibility as well. Just to save your money in any way possible, so that you can also make a splash in the summertime if need be.
Conte to Barca is, for me, ridiculous. I just don't see the fit personally.
Oh,
So
no,
I guess
no. Me neither. Me neither.
exactly. Mac, maybe you can give us some of your thoughts on that. But before you do so, would it be at all possible that Graham Potter is going to Brighton and saying, "Hey, I want Moises Caicedo and McAllister for combined 60 million"? Who says no?
I think majority of Chelsea fans. To be completely honest, I don't. I could see Brighton would be like, yes, please, 100%. Let's see if we can get 70, and I think they'll be in a position to try to ask for more money. And at this point, why not just like take the Brighton logo too at the same time? Like the bird, just take that. Why not? Have fun. But first of all, the Conte to Barca thing, no, that's not how. I don't. No, not at all. I don't like that. I hate that. If you unless you want to see Barca kind of mess around and kind of flounder horribly, unless you want to see that, I think that in no world that should ever happen. That's like the reverse Tielemans to Arsenal. It's exactly what they don't need. Which probably mean it'll happen, to be completely honest, knowing how the world of football works, right? But for the Caicedo piece, I think I would disagree with that being a fit as much for Chelsea, because he is an attractive piece, but he hasn't really played consistent football ever. He has been a rotation piece for Brighton previous to this year, signed just last season, and has only played a bit of football this year and kind of basing off a very small window, versus a player like Declan Rice, who has a track record of being kind of a big piece for a team and consistently performing week in and week out. So I don't like that fit as much. I'd rather see that middle step that we talk about, Caicedo to West Ham first, and then kind of see where you go from here. But Chelsea, I think they're not going to be able to solve as many problems here in this January transfer window, in my opinion. I think that maybe bring in one player if they can. Otherwise, they need to do more of a full reset in the summer, and hopefully it doesn't go so horribly where Graham Potter is in a horrible position at that point, where they have to already look at replacing him and they haven't gone that far down in the table. I think their hope is just to kind of stay afloat, try to keep eyes off them, and have that reset next year.
Fair. Okay. Definitely we'll keep an eye out on that game, and we'll bring you guys the review of that game in our next podcast. On that note, guys, let's take one last break here before we review the remaining games. So stay with us, guys. Welcome back to House of Footy, guys. We're going to continue our Premier League Matchday 17 preview with the remaining games taking place start on Boxing Day. The first game that we're going to quickly discuss now is Tottenham versus Brentford. Tottenham currently 4th in the Premier League table, Brentford are 10th. And I think, Gio, this game is going to be interesting because Tottenham have had some players go to the World Cup. Hugo Lloris likely will miss out on that game, so maybe Tottenham has a chance to win. What are your thoughts on that game?
Hopefully, we see a Spurs loss. Who isn't hoping for a Spurs loss? Obviously, again, like you said, a lot of players have gone to the World Cup and stuff like that. I can't see all of those guys being back, or like a handful of them being back. Christian Romero's obviously drunk. Hugo Lloris drunk for other reasons. Harry Kane mentally in shambles. Hey man, we see it all. So, although I do still think, skill set wise, Spurs are far beyond Brentford. But again, Brentford is known to be able to counterattack quite well, and hang on to those, late game situations as they did with Man City. Am I correct? I think it was Man City where it was the last second counterattack. But again, not sure what the deal is with Ivan Toney. What's going on there? Is he suspended yet? Will he get suspended
Yeah, if he's playing, I can't count Brentford out just yet, just because I know the Spurs' depth will be a little bit hindered. But again, I think Spurs will on on the odd sheet, they will be the favorites, and I still think they will be the favorites just based on skill set alone and Conte being able to park the bus and playing till he gets a chance and then taking advantage of it.
Yeah, Xiaomin Son left the tournament kind of halfway through, so glad to see that he most likely will be back. Dejan Kulusevski played in their sort of friendly games in between the World Cup and the return of the Premier League. Mac, what do you give Tottenham the chances to win this game?
Very good. I think Gio pointed it out. Kulusevski, as you just mentioned, Ray, I think is key. He's a player that I've harped on a lot in terms of being vital for Spurs as a creative force to their other attackers. Because playing in a front three of Son, Kane, and Richarlison, I feel like that's a little bit too much where everyone wants to be able to get their own. Kane can be a creative player, but his first instinct more so is to still be a striker, right? Whereas Kulusevski is much more that setup play. So him coming back, being in good form, I think would be very useful for him because large parts of the first half of the season he was injured, right? So him having this break, be able to work back in, being in a position where he hopefully come in a little bit on a roll, I think would be vital for them. As well as I think almost all their players, other than the Romero and Hugo Lloris, they didn't have a long term. I don't think anyone else made it past the round of 16, if I remember correctly. So I think they should still come in where they're one of the teams where yes, they did get minutes, so they're not, but at the same time that they're not 100% rusty. So they might be the team more so than any other in the Premier League where they can thread that needle between rest and rust, right? So I still think they have a good shot. But Ivan Toney, though, if he does score, he needs to do some sort of like money celebration. If he's a real one, like just give like the cash sign or the make it a rain, something.
Well, I mean, he gave the ears last time. He gave the ears last time. So let's see what he does this time.
Exactly, because with Jamie Vardy not scoring as many goals, we don't have the shithousery goal celebrations as often, and it's something I need in my life that makes me want to continue to watch the Premier League. So if Ivan Toney can do that, I'm here for it.
Exactly. We'll definitely keep an eye on that game. So, I do also expect Spurs to be the favorites, and so we'll see if they can get that win here. Another game taking place was Man U, who are currently in 5th, against Nottingham Forest, who are 18th. Is this, Gio, the Jesse Lingard derby? What do you expect to happen in this game?
Messi Lingard, he'll forever be in my heart. For all the dances he's done. The Millie Rock at Arsenal. That was a classic one. But no, I just hope Man U play as well as they did today. They played very well today. Ball movement was great. Bruno was on form. So hopefully he brings that into this game. Look, a lot of teams have taken advantage of Nottingham. So let's be another one of those teams. Let's just go out there and spank those boys. They just really need to start off the second half of the season strong. Again, obviously without Sancho for the time being, as he's just trying to train, trying to get back just get himself back mentally more so, getting into the rhythm of things. Rashford looked great. Doesn't look like he skipped a beat, as he has all season. He's looked quite strong, quite pacey, and the goal he scored today was a great individual effort. Again, look, a lot of the players who have played in the World Cup look like they're just eager to get back on the pitch and just kind of forget what happened at the World Cup and just really focus on the club football now. So I'm very excited there, and I just hope I'm predicting more so like maybe like a 2-0 win. Just a great start to the second half.
Okay, Mac, some of the players that Man U has been linked to: Cody Gakpo, Diogo Costa, the keeper for Portugal.
No.
Just says please no. But just looking at those rumors there, do you think those would fit what Man U is looking for, or do you think there's other areas that they can improve on? What do you think?
I think if I'm Man U, I don't go into I try to sign anybody right now. They just got over and no one's talking about it as much right now. The whole Ronaldo issue, him leaving, that's not been as much of a kind of spotlight. And I think Ten Hag needs to figure out who this team is without Ronaldo now, and without that drama, without that kind of headache, and see where he wants to be able to go from there, and figure out key areas on the pitch that he wants to be able to improve on. I think Gio touched on it, but the worrying sign has been Jadon Sancho, where I think after the game today, Ten Hag was asked, "Do you have an update on when he might return?" Well, he said no. And previously, before he says he needs to work on the fitness wise and mentally wise. He's not ready to play, which I don't know what other aspects he needs to have ready to play. Generally, you need one. You need both. But if it's just one of them that he needs to work on, you might have some hope. But it has not been a great endorsement. So I don't know if going out and bringing in Cody Gakpo to then really shoot down Jadon Sancho's career at Man U is what's needed, right? So I think he needs to figure out what team he has, what areas he wants to improve, because thus far this season, even though they are sitting fifth, which normally you would be looking at, that's a decent start. At certain points, it seems like the sky was falling, right? So I think they still have, they need more time to be able to figure out what they have. And if you are going to bring anybody, I think maybe a small change, nothing too large, that can rock the boat too much, because this club needs to find their identity around Ten Hag before they can start bringing in bigger name players, in my opinion.
Okay,
however,
Gio, I guess.
Sorry, I want to jump in there. However, just for the chaos factor and how Gio is a big fan of chaos, the Portuguese goalkeeper, I'm out. No, thank you. I'm good. But this is the perfect Emi Martinez team. The perfect Emi Martinez team. Just for the shit. If the first game Man U play against Arsenal with Emi Martinez as keeper, what do you think it would be absolute scenes? Just here, if you're a fan of chaos, that's the transfer you want.
Listen, if he dons that Man U kit, I'll buy his kit. But yeah, sorry, you're gonna ask me something?
No, it's just your thoughts on those potential transfers as well, or any of the other ones that you may have seen come across.
So in terms of Gakpo, please no. Not right now. It's not the right time. And again, we discussed this in a previous podcast about in the World Cup, discussing how he can earn a move. He's just not a great fit for now. He's more of a winger type player. He's used to crossing balls in. Almost kind of how damn, did I just forget his name already? Guys, you gotta help me out here.
I have no idea who you're talking about. Give me
Context.
World Cup, Premier League.
Tornado.
Anthony,
right?
that's your boy.
Right? Tornado. Sorry, I know him as Tornado, boys.
Okay,
Sorry.
I understand.
So Beyblade, Tornado, whatever you want to call them. He kind of plays like him in a way. I think he's more for the team, but he likes to come from the wing, cut inside, see if there's an option to shoot. If not, just play it back and be able to kind of reset from there. I'm seeing a lot of similarities, but Anthony is a little bit more flashy in that sense. So no to Cody Gakpo, and then Diego Costa. Fuck no. Please do not bring him in. Just he's benefiting from a very decent back line, so I don't think he gets much action to begin with. And we did see just the quality of keeper he is, going up for balls from corners or from free kicks. I just don't think he's that strong, and that's not what they really need at this point. As we know, De Gea isn't too strong in those suits either. On top of the ball playing, so great ball stopper. So why not just stick with that for the time being? Even the rumors of you guys already wanting to extend him, forget that. One person I wouldn't mind them going after for a bargain price would be Memphis Depay. I would love to see him back in a Man U shirt.
The return.
Look, for that budget price that they could possibly get him for, as Barca's desperately trying to offload him. Why not take the gamble there? I mean, if you're not willing to shell out the money now, which I don't think they have the funding to anyways. Again, post Ronaldo saga, I think and again, once a player comes in with a chip on his shoulder with everything to prove, I think things will turn out a little differently now, especially under Ten Hag, who kind of has seen him in sort of in the Eredivisie, kind of play well, grow up in Dutch football. So yeah, no, I think it'd be a decent fit, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't argue against that. I like Memphis, and then as he's looking to leave, or they're pushing him out to leave, it would just make sense in that way. But lastly, let's wrap it up with Man City versus Leeds. Mac, Man City chasing Arsenal in second place, and Leeds currently in 15th position in the Premier League. What do you expect to happen in this game, firstly, and then we can talk about some of the potential transfers that could come Man City's way.
So I think it starts off Holland over under 2.5 goals. I would take the over.
Over.
Probably. I'm petrified. First of all, that video of him, I think we've talked about it as a group together before, but the video of him alone at the Man City training facility where he just like misses everybody, and he has like the metal cutouts of players, and he has like the KDB jersey, and he's just all alone.
Yeah.
Absolute scenes. You love to see it. The kid's amazing. You kind of want to see him do well because he's willing to take kind of a joke and is willing to make fun of himself just for fun. Why not, right? So you'd love to see that. So hopefully he does come back in a position where he's firing on all cylinders and around a team that, if I recall correctly, no player other than Alvarez, I think, for them played in the final or in the semi-final, if I remember correctly. I'll have to go back and double check that. But for me, I think they should be in a good position where that rest versus rust debate, even though they had a whole lot of players in at the tournament, they should still come back with a little bit of rest. And I think other than Alvarez, and given how deep their squad is, they should be fairly fine. It's more so their team, like Man U, are playing against one of the weaker teams thus far this year, and are set up to kind of have a good win to be able to get the ball rolling. And start the second half season in strong form. So, if you're a City fan, they're in a great position.
Okay, Gio, some of the transfer rumors for Man City, obviously after the performance that Guardiola has had in the World Cup, the Croatian defender, has been heavily linked as well. Another player that apparently has been linked, but if it does happen, I don't see it happening anytime soon. Bukayo Saka as a replacement on that right-hand side of the midfield. It could happen later on, but I don't see it anytime soon. What do you think about some potential transfers?
First of all, to comment on the over/under. Hey boys, whoever is listening, who's thinking about betting the under, it's life's too short to bet the under. Always bet the over, okay? Life's too short to bet the under.
But we don't bet.
But we don't bet. Not here. Never that. But in terms of you saying Bukayo Saka, I saw Max lip quiver a little. So I don't think he's too fond of that transfer. I don't see that happening. But in terms of the Croatian defender, I don't know. I think that's a toss-up because he'll come in like if Man City were to splash the cash, which they're very capable of. If they were to splash the cash and bring him in, he'll be another rotational center back in Pep's ever revolving door of center backs, and I don't think that would be good for him as he's still young. He's only 20 at this point, no? So getting minutes is important.
Yeah.
So
minutes definitely important.
Yeah. So for him to get minutes, I think is important. Obviously, the learning aspect, he has a lot to learn, and learning from a manager of Pep's level and caliber, does wonders for players. But again, I think there's no better training tool than to go out there and play and to gain that experience. Again, I think he's another one of those players, like like Mac discussed with Caicedo, that would sort of benefit from a middle tier move, and then jump up to a higher level, which I think he's very capable of. He's proven that he can play in big situations and be a leader at such a young age. So I think big teams will still knock on the door, but I think based on career move wise and just player development wise, going to a middle club or a middle tier club would be great. Even like a Borussia Dortmund, they're known for this. Go there and try to learn and absorb information there would be fantastic for his career.
Okay, same question to you, Mac, before we wrap it up.
First of all, that soccer comment is uncalled for. I don't care what the rumors say. I don't care if Fabrizio comes out and says it. You're not allowed to say it. Okay, I'll put open your mouth for that. No. But the Guardiola rumor, I think if that were to happen, I think that is a good fit because he seems to be a ball playing center back. And maybe Messi did make him affordable with that one move. So I could see that. And the only thing is that if that does happen, there's the writing on the wall for Laporte. He's probably right out the door right afterwards. So I think that might be an interesting kind of domino effect about what other team is going to try to pick up him because he still has a lot of quality. Very good on the ball, center back. Good defensively. May lack a little bit of pace, but can still give you something. In regards to other rumors for them, the only other one I've seen out there, and Ray, since you brought up Saka, I'll bring up Jude. I think that would be much more fun. Let's focus on that, boys. I'm sorry. Obviously, I don't want that to happen, but here we are. I think those more so for them. If I am them, I'm looking at my wide back positions and trying to look for a reset there more than anything else because Kyle Walker and Cancelo, they're both in their late teens and also the late 20s, in the wrong side of 30 for Kyle Walker, where you might want to be able to bring in younger players in those positions, at least one, instead of a couple years ago when Pep first had come in, where they spent almost 150 million just on wide backs alone in that one transfer window, I think it was. So I would be more so looking at doing something like that again, maybe just one of the two, save the next one for next year as an example, but that more so is an area of concern for me than either a midfield winger or center back position for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Not a lot wrong with that team, so there's no, I think, immediate need to fix. And so definitely in the summer, I think would be where we see more of a cash being spent by Man City. So we'll keep an eye out on all these games that we mentioned, guys, and then obviously cover it in our next podcast. With that being said, this concludes our podcast for today. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe to us on our social medias. That's at @house_of_footy. If you have any comments, suggestions, or general banter, feel free to get in touch with us via email as well. Our email is houseoffooty@hotmail.com. The next time you hear from us will be Tuesday when we review the action from match day 17 of the Premier League. On that note, thank you, Gio.
Thank you, guys. Welcome back. The Prem's back, baby.
Thank you, Mac.
Messi, continue to enjoy the World Cup. You deserved it.
And thank you guys for listening. Peace out.